Good day, Miss Lape. It's me again, Roy Luther Agad from your first year Medical Laboratory Science class, Section A17. And in this video, I will be answering in detail the 19 questions posted in the self-assessment questionnaire. And so without further ado, let's get started. Question letter A. Where am I now in my life? How did I get here? Okay, so if this would not necessarily be related to PE, or like if it's asking for the sentimental point I am right now in my life, I must say I'm in the process of moving on and finding my most genuine purpose in life. I mean, at least the path, the solid, final, permanent path I'd be focusing on, or I'd be taking a good look at for the rest of my life. You know, I just shifted to another course and transferred to another school, so a lot of emotional discomfort have been surrounding my atmosphere up to this day. But I'm still trying my best to contemplate on the situation and reevaluate my reasons as much as possible. As for why I came up with this decision, so I'd eventually be confident about it someday, hopefully soon. It was personally my decision, not my parents, not my friends. I've had good grades. I still got into the first honors team's list from start until I transferred. I was pretty contented with my outputs in the course, but I still shifted. And my reasons for that are too personal, so I cannot put them into detail here. So yeah, that's where am I now, technically. But if this is strictly in terms of my physical fitness position, I believe I just got a turning point, and it's this subject. Regardless of my personal preference, I should be rebranding my lifestyle from now on, because other than I should comply with the requirements, I'm also now in college, and it really takes a strong, composed, dependable physique to university life. There'd be a lot of pressing points in the future, and how do I battle with them if a soft blow would knock me down already? So I'm trying my best to now engage to physical fitness. I've already started actually when I filmed for my activity 2 submission, and I felt great actually. I filmed it on a hill, which is technically a tourist site, but to get there you have to hike. And usually when I go there with friends, or in some cases alone, because it's a great site for unwinding, I run out of breath already, malayo pa lang. And for my experience earlier, actually, I filmed it earlier, I reached the peak unproblematic. I mean, I did not run out of breath. I only got tired when I got home. So I was confused. Why? And now, just now, I realized maybe it's because I jogged up there and not merely walked. I don't know. I didn't grow in size naman. So that's not a factor. So what else? That was the only altered component. I jogged instead of walking. So maybe it's because of that. I bet. Because it truly, when I merely walk, I mean this part, the back part of the leg, gets weary really quickly. But today, it did not. That's it. Letter B. What do I like about myself, my body, and what do I not like? Personality-wise, I love that I'm not a crammer, although I am a procrastinator, and that's something I do not like. I'm just very cautious, attentive to time, always, and I value everything because you'll never know how long they'll be lasting. That would be one. Another likable feature about me is that I am very particular when it comes to grooming. If that would be maarte, then I am maarte in a way. But yeah, I don't like letting a day pass without taking a bath at least twice. The other could be a sponge bath or an alcohol bath, but definitely one should be a full bath with soap, with shampoo, with conditioner. And I usually, but not all the time, apply different soaps according to texture to my face and iba din for my body. And I also apply a specific kind of soap to my hair and rinse it before putting shampoo. Yes. Finally, I hate seeing dark, dirty fingernails and toenails. Iba din yung sa ears and sa pusod. They're also my pet peeves. Does that count? Yeah. Now for the unlikables. I have a lot more than the likables. I sleep really late that I often am not able to take breakfast and lunch. Especially lately, I've been waking up regularly at 2 p.m. And I understand that's really toxic. Before, 12 a.m. was already a call time for me. I'd be sleepy already by max 12 a.m. and I usually go to bed at 9 p.m. Nung junior high school, that's 8 a.m. because I have 7:30 classes back then, face to face. But yeah, starting last year, college, my body clock has been disrupted. I could stay up until 1 a.m. and then 2, then 3, then 4. Now I can stay up until 5 or 6. That's super true. And I want to cut that off as soon as possible. Another is that I also am not very cautious when it comes to food. It's not like I eat everything. Kasi to be honest, I'm very picky with the food I eat. Pero in terms of the food I actually eat, walang preno yun. And my go-to foods are pastries. So our fridge is also something to be blamed. Because it rarely runs out of cakes, cupcakes, everything baked. I also love fast food so much. I always go to McDo and ice cream sa 7-Eleven. So yeah, speaking of food, me as a whole, I am not a very disciplined person. Of course, that excludes obedience to parents because I'm scared of them. I abide by the rules all the time, except lang sa sleeping, siguro. So yeah, I often overwork. I overuse my body. I study non-stop. If I'd like to, I'd stay up all night. Every time my favorite K-pop groups do a comeback, I'd stream their MVs really hard and end up not getting enough sleep. Yes, I am that person. I'm not into liquor and of course vapes and cigarettes, but I'm very addicted to soft drinks and coffee. And those have already put me into danger more than once. I already got confined because of UTI, and I also get occasional palpitations and low blood pressure. That's really scary, and hopefully I'd be able to control that now. C. What is it about my body and mind that I am unhappy with that could be positively affected by exercising regularly? I believe exercising is a good habit should you want to relax yourself, and my dad is a testament of that. When he's tired, I often question him why he goes to the sports complex instead of just resting in bed. He's a workaholic, like me, faces screens all day, but at least 3 times a week. I mean, he couldn't possibly do that every day because there are times na late siyang nakakauwi. He resorts to the tennis court, soccer field. There are times na basketball occasionally, badminton, table tennis. He's a sports guy and a school principal at the same time. So yeah, I've derived my thoughts, my insights from his story, and that also says it's very helpful with his mental health. Like, no stress talaga siya. He says na-relieve yung problems when he plays. So those things, they are also existential within me. I often get stressed, I get tired, physically, mentally, but if I devote myself to regular exercising, most likely I'd feel so much better in years' time. D. What would I like to change, if anything, and why? I think I've mentioned that already in letter B. Now I would like to regulate my sleeping schedule, my food consumption, and my engagement to physical fitness. For an attempt, wala namang mawawala. And I so believe that these habits would benefit me a lot. Kaya I'm willing to go for the change. A change would all only be seeing after 19 years. E. What is going on in my life that would facilitate behavior change, otherwise inhibit it? Behavior change, of course, coming from me who has gone through an undiagnosed but literally making sense form of anxiety. I can say by experience that environmental change is a very crucial factor. It's very influential to the point na it affects one person's behavior. Say, for example, we shifted into a pandemic and everything had to be done remotely. And we're aware that the cases of anxiety, at least in our country, have risen really rapidly during such term, the pandemic. I was not an exemption to that. The pandemic had also affected me rapidly. I could name a lot of factors that have affected my behavioral change, but they all root to one origin, and that's the lockdown. So with just one lockdown, every problem has bursted. My original college plans were disrupted, and I'm bearing with the aftermath right now. And before I got to this somehow stable situation, I had to experience several breakdowns, loneliness, frustrations, second thoughts, questions, regrets. That was too much. I rarely encounter family problems because my parents have rarely fought. But there were also times now we were also challenged financially, and that affected my everyday encounters as well. I went through very unstable moods. I get angered very easily, and I really find genuine happiness even with the things I love. And for those that could potentially inhibit such change, I just wanna say the super strong relationships with the people would help a lot. Um, and it could be a bandage. It could be a bandage to everything. Me, for example, I encounter a lot of problems, but I have a very open-eared mom, and I can also share things with my dad, so my frustrations don't usually last long. And not to mention, I have a small collection of trustworthy friends. Yeah, so that's all we need to resist behavioral change. And to conclude, I've also read last week when I was doing activity 2 of module 1. I ran across a research journal on the psychological after effects of exercising. So the usual aerobics such as running and jogging would be helpful in terms of behavioral stability. F. Where am I now in my physical activity level? Oh, so I've talked about this in Questionnaire, but if I would refer to the standardized pattern presented in class, I mean the latter thing, I'm in the contemplation stage, to sum it up. I'm aware of my physical shortcomings, my mental instability, and I now know more on how effective exercise is in battling with these, so I'm engaging feasible ways to maintain my regular exercise encounters. Letter G. Have I tried regular exercise before and failed to stick with it? Yes, March 2021. I had random thoughts of surprising people with a change, and I was determined about it. in all fairness. So I started browsing for gym routines that would not cost a peso. I wanted it to be gym free, but still works just like you're in a gym. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I tried to settle for that habit. And also some friends of me have gone into such habit during the pandemic. So napaisip din ako. I was not insecure, but I'm happy with my body that time. I was daw malusog because I'm bulky but not thick enough to be called chubby. My body was ideal for a teenager, but that's not the trend these days. A lot of teens have worked for abs already, and I was intrigued by that. I got really curious about that. I wanted to have mine also, so I tried. So I just tried, but failed. I think it lasted for a week or less. And as far as I can remember, I got distracted for a day or two because of a school obligation. I mean, an org I was leading. And after that, wala na. Hindi ko na naisipang bumalik. Of course, I'm curious today. As for what could have happened if I retained that, pero hindi, bawi na lang. Maybe now. Maybe before face-to-face classes, I could also get abs already. Letter H. Currently, how do I estimate my potential to stick with an exercise program to be? On a scale of 1 to 10, I believe it's safe to conclude with a 5, at least for now. While I would definitely exert maximum effort in sustaining such a lifestyle, chances remain indefinite, especially given that I am a university student. There'd be lots of distractions along the way. I might get busy with academics or internship, things like that. But like how I described earlier, I'll be needing that ideal physique to survive my university and adulting whereabouts. So exercising might eventually be a priority. I. What unmet personal needs am I thinking of attempting to meet? Again, this question is too broad, especially that we're in the context of PE. So I'd answer ulit in two perspectives. First, in life, physical need or necessity is limited to those things a person cannot live without, such as food, shelter, clothing, medicines, finances. So if that's the case, then I cannot say I've been lacking on one or something's still unmet. I grew up with a providing family, so I don't have an issue in that aspect. Now if it's a personal need in the context of PE, I would say endurance. Because even at this moment, I'm starting to get discouraged in proceeding with this lifestyle. I've only exercised earlier and now I'm having muscle aches already that makes me disappointed and discouraged. Maybe I've performed the wrong routines, executed them wrongly. That's why it's like this. And another is that should I pursue to continue? I have to do it on my own. So I think it would also be nice to have a coach or someone who could accompany me and monitor me, track my development. J. Am I ready? Really ready to try it? Would I really like to change, even if it means giving up something I am accustomed to? I'm ready, but not really ready. But I have to be ready. So I try to be really ready. I'd be expecting a lot of benefits by switching to this lifestyle. So it does not really matter if I'd be giving up things I used to buy with, especially if they're toxic or if they used to be the factors that had kept me static or weak all these years. Besides, I think I'm in a state of emergency. Right now, this lifestyle is battering me already, so I have to cope up as soon as possible. And I so believe that this healthy lifestyle being discussed is something that would help me. Okay, do I think that I can mobilize my mental strength if that is what I want or need to do. In the medical sense, no, but that might help in increasing the chances. The way we think is not a voluntary matter, and no matter how hard we try to resist, ideas, good or bad, will definitely come across our minds. The thing is, they won't necessarily affect us negatively, because now in that aspect, it is up to us. We choose how we deal with our thoughts, if we choose to dwell with them, make a big deal out of them, or let them occupy us. Otherwise, we can look at them as something helpful. Say, if it's a problem, then we can instead view it as a challenge. So, if that's the question, if the question is inclusive of this analysis, then mental strength is something we can mobilize as long as we want to. L. How has my previous experience with personal health behavior change been? Good? Bad? Some success? None? Would that help me this time around? Bad. Because I wasn't able to finish it nga, diba? I'm talking about the switching attempt I had last year. And that attempt only lasted for less than a week, so it's not very commendable. But definitely, it's something worth the inspiration. It's worth contemplating on. So, I could make it my reference in doing this new attempt now. Evaluate it. What went wrong before? How could I improve? Just like that. It gives me a ray of hope, and it feels like I'm destined to give this healthy lifestyle another chance, because while I was able to neglect it the first time, here's another chance. Life must be telling me something. M. What can I learn from experience that will help me this time? Am I being realistic about this? I've learned that getting into the healthy way of living requires more than just physical resources. To get into this lifestyle, one has to be committed, and he must know where his goals are coming from. More than that, he must be true to these goals. Being unhealthy is a very good inspiration. You get into exercising because you want to save yourself from being toxified by your previous lifestyle. It went like that for me when I did the first attempt last year. I was merely curious about the abs thing, so I was not very committed about it. It was a test experience for me. I did not really have any realistic goals that time, so it was easy for me to let go of it as soon as it did not favor my interest anymore. But now, since I have the motivation, my body is deteriorating, I'm not living ideally. My personal interests have been punishing my body, so more than ever, I'm willing to undergo this process. Letter N. What is my self-image? Once again, this is a very general question. I'm not really sure what self-image particularly, but if it's my physique that's being asked for, I'm currently thinner than usual. I've lost weight recently after unintentionally skipping meals, and that's not a good kind of weight loss. I'm far from being underweight, but that was a lot of weight loss. I am fair-skinned. It's not that I am racist or something, but as for my personal preference, I hate turning dark, so I keep myself like this. I'm not into outdoor activities. I'm always on jackets. I don't use cosmetics that much. Just to make it clear, I only apply lotion when there's an occasion, sunblock when we go out, say for a swim or a hike, since of course UV rays are pretty difficult to deal with. I keep everything about me natural. I don't like hair colors, I don't like tattoos, I don't like piercings. I've always been like this. Now, talking about my social image, I've used to be someone a lot of students have been looking up to. I see that rewarding, but not something worth boasting, of course. I've always been a student leader. I used to lead the student council. I'm the publication editor. I'm also into extracurricular activities, especially in the musical aspect. I sing a lot. I'm in a choral and I represent my school in several competitions, maybe in duet, solo, or even in choral. Now, speaking of competition, I have always been competitive in all my whereabouts, especially in academics. I make sure to always be on top. I give myself too much pressure, but that does not affect me negatively. I like it this way na I have set standards for myself. That's to keep me from falling, from failing, from being left behind. Well, that's my personal sentiment. I also understand that failures are innate in people and they're not really much of a deal. But as for me lang talaga, as much as possible, I should be excellent in everything I do. Oh, do I think of myself as good looking? Attractive, not attractive. Healthy, unhealthy. Well, come on, this is a very awkward question. I don't necessarily consider myself good looking. I mean, I acknowledge my visual shortcomings, but I don't really mind. I don't have physical insecurities naman. I'm just happy about myself, but that's not enough to consider myself good looking. Attractive, I don't know, but I wish I am. I also deserve to attract people, but it always depends on the person. We all have different preferences. But if I am to be another person and I have to evaluate one Roy Luther, no, I won't get attracted with Roy Luther. He's unhealthy. Exercise muna siya before he becomes worthy of the attraction. Right now, I am unhealthy, but in weeks' time, I will be healthy. I'll make sure of that. Letter P. What do I see when I look in the mirror? Wow. To be sentimental about this, every time I look in the mirror, I see a guy full of passion. I know this guy's getting a good name in the future because he's goal-oriented, he's driven, he's persevering. Kaya it would never be a surprise seeing him become successful. However, this guy is also inconsistent. He's not very disciplined and he overuses himself physically, mentally, emotionally. And if he does not do anything about this as soon as possible, he might actually retire just before he fulfills his ambitions. So I really hope this guy changes. Letter Q. What kinds of feelings do those images elicit? Of course, that gives an overwhelming feeling of hope, which at the same time suggests action. Before getting to actually realize such ambitions, I first have to take care of myself, care for my well-being, because baliwala lang din lahat when the body is weak. Now, as much as I want to persist for this change, to prioritize health above everything na, obligations keep on adding up. So, part of the plan is to devise a personal system that would cater to my needs fairly and justly. I don't need to compromise anything. Letter R. If I am planning to exercise to help in weight loss or simply to shape up a currently out-of-shape body, will I be able to use the facts that smaller size clothing now fits and that my waist is getting smaller as measures of success rather than scale weight, which might or might not change much even as I am redistributing body mass? I still think that if we have to generalize, it's always the BMI that matters. We exercise to regulate our BMI. That's the ideal one. So as long as we get to satisfy that idea, it's safe to say that we have become successful in our attempt to live the healthy life. But if I were to be subjective, of course getting to wear smaller sized clothes and reduction in waist sizes are valid in measuring success. Most people have that as the ultimate goal, and there's nothing wrong with it. as long as they're not super thin to the point na they're becoming underweight. Now in that case, that's not a good motivation, or the routines may have gone wrong. If it's scale weight alone, it feels incomplete because we always have to consider the height. One specific weight for this tall person would be different if it was to be put exactly owned by a shorter person. That's why we have BMI. It's the proportion right here that we should treat with utmost respect. That's why we have BMI. No, a lot of people tend to misunderstand that. You're not any more healthy if you're thin as a pat-pat though, and not all chubs are unhealthy as well. It just shows that they're getting proper nutrition, enough for them to get their skins thicker than ideal. Yeah. And finally, here's question letter S. And further, if I am going to exercise primarily for weight loss, is my true goal to become really thin rather than somewhat thinner? This still depends on the person. If it's the healthy kind of thin, then it's okay to keep it that way. Getting a lot thinner would be unnecessary and relatively risky as well. One might not be able to control the way he works out, and that might add complications in weight control. There's no such thing as an ideal body, but I believe all exercise enthusiasts must understand that it is dangerous to go beyond or under moderation. If I be personally asked, however, and judging on my physique now, I go to grow thicker. This kind of thin is unhealthy. Is an unhealthy kind of thin. That's why I believe a little weight gain would make it a lot more stable. Being super thin is not really good. So if you're exercising for the sake of getting thin, be mindful of your current figure as well. If you're at the risk of obesity, you have to be really thin. But if you're just living normally and you surely don't want any medical complications, it would be better for you to just go for being somewhat thinner. The term true goal is somehow confusing because it should depend on the unique health status of the person. And that concludes this very lengthy video. I hope I was able to deliver my insights in an understandable manner, and I hope I was making sense all throughout this video. I appreciate this questionnaire so much. It was long, but it definitely made me contemplate on something and allowed me to assess my personal situation at this specific point. So great. I had a great time answering this questionnaire, and I hope all students did as well. That's all for the video. Thank you for listening. Bye.